for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm here to express again the frustrations of people with disabilities as they continue to wait for a Canada Disability Benefit Act to be tabled in this House. We know they face too many challenges in what is clearly an unequal world. COVID-19 has exacerbated the obstacles people with disabilities face every day. And with the addition of immunity risks, just going out in the community for food or medical appointments is no longer an option for some. The government must act now. They have an obligation to uphold the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and to ensure dignity and full equality for all. Last week during question period, I asked again in the committee about the dire financial circumstances that too many people with disabilities are living with, and to let the minister know that they feel they have been abandoned by this Liberal government. I ask again for the Canada Disability Benefit Act to come to this House immediately. In the minister's response to my question, the disproportionate impact of COVID on people with disabilities was acknowledged. The minister also shared that getting financial relief to them was difficult based on the logistical challenges of the federal data systems. It is beyond time, Madam Speaker, for this government to do better for the disability community. So, following up on my question last week on the Disability Benefit Act, the Canada Disability Benefit Act, and on eligibility for the imminent tabling of it, the minister spoke of the government system not allowing for easy identification of persons with disabilities to get them the benefits they need. It was said that persons with a disability are not easy to identify as seniors and parents are. And I would ask, why not? The reason appears to be priorities. People with disabilities need to be prioritized. They have waited too long. The fact that they cannot be easily reached to receive income supports needs to be corrected immediately. The government has the opportunity to this tax year to begin to codify persons with disabilities based on receiving provincial supports as an indicator. This will give the government a head start on administering in what I trust is an imminent Canada Disability Benefit when it becomes law. Since forming government in 2015, the Liberals have spoken about the importance of lifting people with disabilities out of poverty, yet their actions on delaying bringing a CBD bill to the floor and having inadequate information systems to reach potential beneficiaries does not make sense. I'm asking today that the Parliamentary Secretary explain that disconnect. In addition, I ask if the upcoming budget has included the necessary funds to begin a Canada Disability Benefit to improve the living conditions for persons with disabilities. And I'd also like to hear from the Parliamentary Secretary all the ways that the government plans to finally uphold their commitment to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities for full realization of all human rights.
Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member of Port Moody Coquitlam for raising this important issue. I would remind her that we introduced legislation to establish the Disability Benefit Bill C-35 on June 22nd, 2021. We originally notified Canadians of our intent to introduce that legislation in Budget 2020. There is no doubt that the government remains committed to the reintroduction and implementation of a Canada Disability Benefit Act. The Canada Disability Benefit would support hundreds of thousands of Canadians with disabilities, lifting them out of poverty. In addition to this legislation being a Liberal Party campaign commitment during the 2021 general election, the government's commitment to introducing this legislation is clear. When looking at the mandate letter for the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Disability Inclusion. On December 16, 2021, the Prime Minister instructed the Minister to design, introduce, and implement a Canada Disability Benefit Act and create a Canada Disability Benefit for low-income working-age persons with disabilities. That is an explicit commitment and one she is moving purposely but carefully to fulfill. I say carefully, Madam Speaker, because we recognize the leading role that provinces and territories play in providing supports and services to Canadians with disabilities. It's important that we engage with them in developing federal benefits and supports. In fact, federal, provincial, and territorial ministers responsible for social services and disabilities met to discuss the proposed new benefit, and this work continues. In the spirit of nothing without us, we are also consulting and engaging with persons with disabilities and the disability community directly. So yes, the government is working on a permanent solution with our partners and stakeholders. We are still working on the details, but I can tell my colleague this. The benefit is part of the larger Disability Inclusion Action Plan, which will provide a whole-of-government approach to achieving a disability-inclusive Canada. In addition to the proposed benefit, the Disability Inclusion Action Plan will include a robust employment strategy for Canadians with disabilities and a better process to determine eligibility for federal disability programs and benefits. A cornerstone of the action plan will be the Canadian Disability Benefit. It will improve the financial security of persons with disabilities and reduce poverty. And it will do this by supplementing, not replacing, existing federal and provincial territorial benefits. The financial security of persons with disabilities has always been a priority for the government and continues to be so. Since 2015, we have taken historic steps toward building a disability inclusive Canada, but sadly we know that the pandemic has hit Canadians with disabilities hard. It has highlighted and exasperated inequities they face. The Canadian Disability Benefit would address these inequities head-on. The Government of Canada believes that no one should live in poverty. Again, I thank my colleague for the question and for her advocacy on behalf of her constituents. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Parliamentary Secretary for the words, and I truly hope that we are almost there. My question remains, the community is asking me, the disability community is asking me, when will this government table the legislation for the Canada Disability Act?
The honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The harsh truth is that Canadians with disabilities are twice as likely to live in poverty. The COVID pandemic has only intensified that pressure. The Canadian Disability the Canadian Disability Benefit is a priority for the government, and it will be a key component of Canada's first ever Disability Inclusion Action Plan. The benefit will have the potential to help hundreds of thousands of working-age Canadians with disabilities and their families. Madam Speaker, as we work with our provincial and territorial partners and other stakeholders to develop the best possible benefit, I want to remind colleagues that the Government of Canada has been there for persons with disabilities throughout the pandemic. We funded a one-time payment of up to $600 to help persons with disabilities weather this crisis. And Service Canada issued payments of this benefit to 1.75 million Canadians for a total value of $815 million. Again, thank you to the member for her advocacy on this incredibly important issue. Thank you, Madam Speaker.